friends, I'm Bryn. And that's Courtney.
Sorry. Wait, can we start over one more?
Hi friends, I'm Bryn.
And I'm Courtney.
And this is Friends Who Crime.
Friends Who Crime.
We are back. I have to start with a big apology because obviously I have not released an episode in a long time. And it made me really sad, but I just needed a break because October was crazy. I went to like 2 music festivals and I was in Las Vegas and it was just a lot to keep up with and I did not plan ahead very well. So we are back, but that's mostly because Courtney was like, Bryn, why aren't you doing your podcast anymore? And I said, if you come over, I will record the podcast and I'll get back into it. So here we are. And the goal is to keep up with it as much as I can, hopefully at least every other week through the holidays, if not every week. I'm hoping I can do every week. It's just hard with the guests and the logistics of things. It's kind of overwhelming, but I love doing this podcast and I love researching all of these crazy cases. Anyway, speaking of Courtney, hello, Courtney.
Hello, it's good to be back.
Welcome back. Last time you were on was all the way back on episode 3 with the Chowchilla kidnapping, which is crazy. That was so long ago.
Yeah.
And it's been months since then. Like almost like 9 months?
Yeah, that's
Something
crazy.
like that.
It doesn't feel like it's been that
No, it doesn't. Are there any like life updates since last time?
Not really. Just chugging along. Listening to Brent's podcast.
Hell yeah. Okay, you guys, today we are kicking off part 1 of a 3-part series. It is my first multi-part series. So each week you'll get one more little piece of the puzzle, and I think you guys will enjoy it. Let me know if you hate it, but I wanted to give this case the room it needed to breathe instead of just shoving it all into one episode. I will say it's really brutal and it's confusing, and it just recently saw some big developments. Today I will be covering the Austin yogurt shop murders. For part 1, which is today, I'll be covering the actual crime itself. Part 2 will be the investigation, and part 3 will be the theories and the recent developments, including who committed these crazy crimes, these awful crimes. This awful crime. Both. Neither. I will go ahead and give a big umbrella trigger warning. There is some really rough stuff in this case, so be prepared. I did not enjoy reading some of the things that I had to read, and I did water it down a little bit for you guys, but it's still pretty gruesome, so. You ready, Courtney?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. We're going to go back to the 90s today. I was born in the late 90s, and I think...
Yeah, I was as well.
Yeah, okay. So I don't remember a whole lot about the culture of the 90s, but I do remember, like, Tamagotchi and Game Boys and Furbies and, like, Blockbuster. Trying to think of other things.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was 2, so I didn't really get much of
I was like 4.
much of the vibe, but
so let's travel back to Friday, December 6th, 1991 in Austin, Texas. Usually it's a laid-back college town known for live music and bats under the Congress Avenue Bridge. But crime rates nationwide peaked around this time, this era. And even Austin saw rising numbers in murders. In 1990, Austin had 46 homicides, and by 91, it jumped to 49. 4 of those murders were about to be the worst in Austin's history. Around 10 p.m., it's almost closing time at the I Can't Believe It's Yogurt shop on West Anderson Lane. 2 high schoolers, Jennifer Harbison and Eliza Thomas, who are both 17, are employees finishing up their shift. Jennifer's younger sister, Sarah, and her friend, Amy Ayers, have come by to hang out after school and get a ride home from their sisters. It's chilly outside, and everything seems normal. School's out for winter break soon, and they'll just finish the closing tasks at the shop and go home. Then, something pretty unremarkable happens. A man asks to use the bathroom. Typical. Not anything that would, raise a red flag. The girls let him in, but he waits at the bathroom door for a suspiciously long amount of time. Like, it was just kind of awkward.
That's creepy.
And meanwhile, just before 11 p.m., a different couple leaves the shop. They see two men sitting at a table inside, quote, acting furtively, which I had to look up. It means they were avoiding attention.
Interesting.
Trying to be inconspicuous. They were chatting quietly, probably just a couple of regular customers. And as the couple heads home, the store's lights dim, like it's time for closing. But minutes later, something terrible happens. And by midnight, flames are consuming the yogurt shop.
Wow.
Yeah. So what happened, right?
Yeah.
A patrol officer on his typical patrol reports a fire at the yogurt shop. First responders arrive and extinguish the blaze. Inside, they find an unimaginable scene. And this is where it gets kind of hard to listen to, so sorry. They find the charred and naked bodies of 4 teenage girls. Each had been bound and gagged with their own clothing and shot in the back of the head. And you probably have already guessed, it is Jennifer, Sarah, Eliza, and Amy.
Yeah, that's insane.
It's really sad.
I've even heard a lot about this case, and every time I hear those details, it's as insane as the first time I heard them.
I just, walking in on that scene, where it's you expect the building's on fire, let's put out the fire, and then you find 4 bodies of young girls.
Yeah.
I would be scarred for life.
Yeah, for sure.
These girls were thrilled to be closing the store and leaving work 1 minute and then living a nightmare the next minute. The Austin Police Department's homicide detectives and crime scene investigators arrive at the scene. 17-year-old Jennifer and Eliza had been working late. Sarah and Amy had stayed to wait for rides, and now all 4 lie dead. The first responders note the details. Underwear was used to tie their hands, their underwear. Their socks or cloth from their clothing were shoved in their mouths or gagged, used as a gag. 3 of the victims, Jennifer, Eliza, and 15-year-old Sarah, were severely charred by the fire. Amy Ayers was 13 years old and was found in another part of the shop, so not with the other 3. Amy's body was burned about 25 to 30% of her body was burned, and she'd been shot twice. 1 bullet had punctured her brain, the other had exited out of her cheek. So twice in the back of the head.
Okay.
1 punctured her brain, stayed in there. The other one exited out the front.
Weird.
It's weird to me because why was she separate from everyone else? And why was she the only one that was shot twice?
Yeah, exactly. It almost seems like she was running away, or they missed the first time that they shot her and then they had to shoot again, I guess. But also this just all seems like overkill to me.
Totally.
Not that I have a lot of experience in murder, but...
Well, but, you know enough.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
You can tell when, I don't know, it is. It's overkill. It's a lot. 4 girls shot execution style with at least 2 different guns. There was a 22 caliber bullet, and I know nothing about guns, so hopefully I'm saying this correctly, a 38 caliber. It's .380.
Sounds right to me.
Yeah. So 2 different guns, essentially, 2 different sized bullets. And then the crime scene was set on fire to destroy all the evidence. Even sprinklers and the fire truck's hoses had doused much of the shop, so the investigators, who were led by homicide detective John Jones, are like walking around the scene, scouring for scraps of evidence that are all covered in ash and water. So fire and water have destroyed everything.
Yeah.
As Austin police later acknowledged, quote, due to damage from the fire and water from the automatic sprinklers, evidence was difficult to collect. In short, a killer who planned meticulously left investigators with very little to go on. And, like, imagine having to go through that scene. There's ash everywhere, water everywhere. You're trying to figure out who killed these girls, but there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do.
Yeah. I can't figure out a smart way to say this, but it's almost like the most mysterious mystery I've ever heard.
Yes.
It's just so weird. So crazy.
And of course, in the midst of this, news cameras roll in, reporters roll in. The yogurt shop murders, as the media soon dubbed them, stun Austin. Like, these things don't really happen often in Austin, especially, I mean, I'll call it a mass murder. There's 4 of them.
Yeah.
News outlets describe the horror. Every news outlet is covering this. The community is shocked. They hold candlelight vigils. Articles note the hush that falls over UT campus. One resident later wrote to the Austin Chronicle in 2011, I think the murders at the North Austin yogurt shop were without a doubt the most tragic incident in the history of Austin, which I think is an understatement.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the only, like, big crime that I know of in Austin, other than, like, the tower shooting. I guess that was a big one.
Yeah, but this one just feels so much more random. Like, the fact that it's even in a yogurt shop is just so much more jarring, it feels like.
Chief Lisa Davis of APD would, decades later, call these one of the most devastating and haunting cases in the city's history. And Austin had to grapple with fear in the late 90s. Parents were worried about letting their kids out at night now. This late night snack place got attacked and people were killed and it was set on fire. And so, like, everyone's second guessing, like, going to 7-Eleven at midnight. People are like, I don't know. I don't really want to go out there anymore in the dark.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Just a very anxious feeling in the city. The local press ran a ton of specials. Community leaders were holding, like, prayer services. They were making little, shrines of flowers outside the gutted shop. The building itself would eventually be torn down and replaced, but for months and for years, people would place flowers or candles or pictures at the location out of respect and grief. Meanwhile, APD is under pressure, for sure. This is Austin's most prominent unsolved case, so every lead mattered. And of course, they had a lot of leads, because that's what happens when they ask for tips.
Yeah.
And they took every tip, and they ran every single one of them down, every anonymous call, every suspect that people suggested. They apparently, from what I read, did a pretty good job of investigating with what they had.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like they did their best with what they could at the time.
Right. Which was not a lot.
Yeah.
And even, like, In the 90s, DNA was like just becoming a thing, DNA testing. But if everything's been burned, there's not a lot of DNA to go off of, probably.
Yeah, and burned and then like flooded and
Right.
walked over, so.
Right.
Yeah.
But I will say they did collect some DNA.
Okay.
And that does become important later.
That's good.
The official statement years later noted that the APD received thousands of tips and dozens of confessions as well, but most of them led nowhere. The case, of course, goes national. Billboards are popping up. Volunteer task forces and the FBI are called in to consult about this case. There are actually people who have dubbed themselves serial killer hunters at this time. There are probably those people now as well. But,
yeah, that's fair.
but those people were showing up thinking like this couldn't have been someone local. They thought it was a serial killer and they were trying to hunt him down, them down.
Yeah. Why would so many people confess? That's super weird.
A great question.
Like, just feeling guilty? I don't
I don't know. The first thought I have is like they want the attention.
I guess, but that's not good attention.
No, it's not. It's totally not. But people are gonna people.
Yeah, fair enough.
And actually, I wanted to say too, before the case got solved this year, like just earlier this year, I saw billboards about this case and like all their pictures up on the billboard being like, if you have any information, like call this number.
That's crazy. I saw the documentary on HBO, but I didn't see the billboards.
Yep.
That's
I saw
insane.
them like off of 183, I think, when I was driving up north. There were a couple of them.
Wow.
Which makes sense because the shop was in North Austin. I just put that
true.
together. Wow. But yeah, crazy. They were still looking for information, 35 years later.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there are like a lot of families involved with there being that many victims, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously they got what they needed.
Yeah.
But it took a very long time.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's no immediate breakthrough. Nothing. No leads, no suspects, just confusion and devastation. And it stayed like that for 5 days before a spark of hope came through. Which 5 days in the grand scheme of things does not seem that long. But I bet those were the longest 5 days of those families and police investigators' lives.
Yeah, probably just sitting by the phone 24/7, not sleeping.
Right. So, this lead, 5 days later, on December 11th, officers arrest 16-year-old Maurice Pierce. He was not connected to the girls, necessarily. He wasn't like an employee of the shop, but he was just another North Austin teenager. A call came in, one of these tips, that he was carrying an unregistered .22 caliber handgun, the same caliber as one of the murder weapons. Police check his gun, and it is, in fact, the same model that was used in the killings. He is brought in and interrogated late into the night for hours. I mean, hours with, very little food, not a lot to drink, just getting tired, and they're just pounding him with questions.
Yeah, and as a 16-year-old, that has to be extra tough. 16.
Ugh. Just because you have a gun, which, he probably shouldn't have had a gun to begin with. But
yeah, I mean, 16. It goes both ways.
But he does confess. They get a confession. He tells He tells detectives he shot all 4 girls. So, done. Case solved. Easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
obviously this is only part 1 of a 3-part series. But at the time, the city breathes a little easier. Someone has admitted to the crime. But, and this is what I wrote in my script, but Detective John Jones is not convinced. The next morning, he carefully reviews Pierce's confession against the actual crime scene facts, and some of those details do not add up at all. The timeline is fuzzy. The way he says the crime happened doesn't match how the girls were found. He didn't say anything about the one girl being further away with multiple gunshots. He just said he shot all of them once. Ballistic tests on his .22 caliber gun come back inconclusive. So they can't confirm, but they can't say no.
That's unfortunate.
It is. It is. Unfortunately, inconclusive automatically means like a negative result.
Yeah. But I mean, that's also a lot of planning for a 16-year-old to have done by himself.
I agree. So there's no smoking gun, literally. Within days, police very quietly release Pierce. Very quietly. And his confession seems to have been coerced or mistaken or just wrong, false.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like at a certain point, if you're being held there for long enough, you would say anything to be let go, especially if you're a kid.
There's only so much pressure. I don't know. I think of Amanda Knox, right? She's over in Italy, and she's maybe a little older than this, but they get a confession out of her just because they're coercing her into it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a similar situation. They needed to pin this on someone quickly, and he fit the narrative.
Yeah, I know the intentions are good, but it's crazy how often that happens.
So the big break evaporates. Anxiety returns. They're back to square one, and the killer remains at large. As Austin's holiday season ends, the yogurt shop case stays completely cold. Police have no strong suspect. They've had to let one confession go. The only clues are the burned shop, the destroyed evidence, and that eerie image of a stranger using the bathroom just before closing. Who was that guy? And where did he go? And that's where we're going to leave off for episode 1. Sorry. What are your thoughts here, Courtney?
Yeah, this is such a crazy case, and I would not want to be the police in this situation. This is just, it's kind of an impossible situation, especially being in the 90s. So, I don't know. It's crazy that they even ever solved it.
I know. I can't even begin to explain how do I say this? The mystery of it, like you were saying, there's this whole mystery to it, and now that it's 35 years later, we're pretty detached from the actual crime. We weren't alive when it happened.
Yeah.
But there's still, for me, when it was solved, some sort of sense of relief.
Yeah, I mean, the legacy kind of carries on. We're still in Austin, whether we were here at the time or alive at the time, and it's still kind of felt in the community. But it's also crazy that documentary just came out right before it got solved. 3 whole parts, extreme detail.
That is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That's definitely something that I was of course, after these people have poured their hearts out into this documentary, then it gets solved.
Yeah.
They'll have to do a 4th part to it.
Yeah, they really should.
I don't know if I feel like I talk about this with my coworkers and stuff. I do know people who were in Austin when this happened, and it's like 9/11, like they remember where they were when they found out about it.
That's crazy, but I mean, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, this is just such a devastating case.
Well, next time, in part 2, we're going to jump ahead 8 years to 1999 when detectives reopen the case and there's some new eyes on some of the details, more interrogations happen, more confessions happen. There's a little bit of, I don't know, more craziness, just more craziness. And yeah, I'm excited to tell you guys about it, but it's gonna next episode is gonna be frustrating. So hang in there with me. Courtney, thanks for joining me in part 1.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, and get ready for part 2 and 3. And for you out there, listeners, thank you for listening. Thanks for coming back and sticking with me after this little break that I took. Yeah, keep an eye on who's using your restroom, drink some water, do some self-care, and remember, friends don't let friends commit crimes. Bye.